Britain's biggest waste company, Biffa, and the government are today unveiling a new partnership focused on reducing plastic waste. The company is going to invest in plastic reuse schemes in developing nations, deploying a team to Kenya to provide advice where there is currently no waste management system at all. Last month, Biffa also teamed up with UK-based charity WasteAid. Well, I have the Chief Operating Officer of Biffa, Mick Davis, in the studio with me now, and Head of Programmes and Engagement at WasteAid, Zoë Lenkiewicz. She is here with me as well. Good morning to you both. Let's talk about this link-up with Kenya. Obviously, we've seen, haven't we, on the streets of London, campaigners saying we need to do more to help the environment. And a lot of people said, look, you know, it's not developed nations you need to be talking to in a lot of instances. It's developing countries. It's further afield. Kenya being an example.
Yeah, in reality, it's probably both. And the reason we've teamed up with WasteAid is so we can actually do something tangible and actually have a benefit. So in developing countries, there isn't a collection infrastructure like you have in the UK. People like us, so they don't have that expertise. So we're trying to push our expertise out there to help, because people are really conscious of plastics in the ocean, and one of the things to solve that is to actually stop them getting to the ocean in the first place. So actually helping developing countries to have a waste management system will help a long way on that kind of progression. Yeah. And that's where WasteAid get involved. Yeah,
Zoe, the UK is doing its bit, needs to do more, obviously. But when you look at somewhere like Kenya, how far behind are they? Do they care? Because, you know, we've had correspondents go to places like India, where you go to the beaches there that are awash with plastic. Some groups are doing their best to clean it up, but it seems like some countries just don't care.
Sure, I can see that it would seem like that, but people really do care. I mean, the health impacts in particular, when you don't have any waste management system, the health impacts on children can be very severe. And I think there's not so much awareness in developing countries as there is in the UK. We don't have this, you know, they don't have the same public sanitation laws, that history of implementing environmental protections for their populations. So it's happening slowly. To be kind of systemic change, yeah, from both the top and the bottom.
Mick, to set up a system like this to recycle plastic or make it ready to reuse again, how expensive and complicated a system is it?
It depends on the nature of the plastic. I mean, people like us are investing heavily in recycling plants up in the northeast, up in County Durham. So we'll do PET and HDP, which are your milk bottles and your fizzy pop bottles, those kind of things. But it is expensive, and it is about how well they're collected and segregated in the first place. So that's quite key to us. And we're sort of campaigning with government at the moment is to give us a chance in recycling, give residents a chance in recycling, make it easier. Yeah. Give them a simple labelling system.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talks about the politics of climate change and reducing plastic at government level. But for everyone at home, for us at home when we go home, it's all about recycling, and it's a way that everyone can do their little bit. And yesterday there was a report out about councils up and down the country and how well they're doing. The government set a target of 50% of waste for councils to be recycled by 2020. I mean, there was a list of shame yesterday published where some councils were sending as little as 14% of their waste for recycling. And Mick, why are some councils getting it so badly wrong?
There are a whole different range of factors. So if you're in a rural shire area, houses tend to have bigger gardens, bigger areas, they can have more bins. If you're in a city area, houses, occupancy, multiple occupancy places have less space for recycling, so it becomes tougher. And populations tend to be more transient in the city, so it's more difficult to get a message across. So that's why we're arguing to have a consistent recycling collection across the UK, consistent nature of materials, just to make it easier for us, make it easier for the individual.
Because, you know, you did say that it is expensive, and that depends on whether it's cross-contamination, you know, people putting the wrong things in their recycling bins and people having to actually sort it out by hand. That's the secret that a lot of people don't know that goes into this recycling. Is it just the expense that's stopping councils? Because their services are so stretched.
Services are stretched, and like all things, we're crying for more. But in terms of expense, no. Actually, recycling is the most cost-effective thing you can do with waste. And not as only cost-effective, it's obviously the right thing to do because it's environmentally sustainable.
And Zoe, just give us a global picture into, I mean, the effect that, you know, this scene behind me is having on the environment. We talk about it a lot here on Sky News, but it's worth reminding people.
That's right. I mean, so globally, you've got something like 3 billion people who have never had a decent waste disposal option, so a proper landfill site, for example. So when you've got no waste management service, you have no option other than to either dump your waste, normally it'll end up in a river and in the ocean, or you set fire to it yourself in your yard. And either of those is a terrible choice for your health, for your children's health, and for the environment. So all the plastic that, you know, a lot of plastic is ending up in the ocean. I think 38 of the 50 biggest informal dump sites around the world are directly on the coast, spilling waste into the sea. So it's very important, I would say, that that we take our actions here in the UK, make sure that we behave correctly with our waste and our recycling here, and also support projects overseas, like WasteAid's current UK Aid Match campaign.
Yeah, so that's setting the standard
today.
and trying to lead the way, isn't it? Zoë, Mick, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us about your project.